Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's trending news stories. Head over to shop.iconic.com, use the code trending and get 10% off our iconic coffee. You're back with me today. The boys are still away on holiday. Let's dive straight into the news. Why are airdrops on Gaza so dangerous? You've seen the planes flying over and dropping. I mean, imagine that, being there waiting for the sky gods to drop your food down while they all clamber over it and crush each other so they can live. Strange planet, horrific planet. But here's why it's so dangerous. Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and Israel parachuted aid packages into the territory for the first time in months over the weekend, amid claims a third of the population has not eaten for days. Israel have done it. The Israeli government have done it. Don't stop bombing them and killing them. Sky drop some food in. The United Nations has condemned airdrops on Gaza, warning they risk killing the starving Palestinians they are intended to help. Shooting them isn't helping either. Jordan, United Arab Emirates, and Israel parachuted aid packages into the territory for the first time in months at the weekend, amid claims a third of the populations have not eaten for months. But Philip Lazzarini, a commissioner and general for the UN Relief and Work Agency for Palestine Refugees, again, always a mouthful, has said they will not reverse the deepening starvation and often do more harm than good. But why? They are expensive, inefficient, and can even kill starving civilians, he wrote on his statement. And here is a screenshot of his statement on X. Airdrops will not reverse the deepening starvation. They are expensive, inefficient, and can even kill starving civilians. Is a distraction and a smokescreen. Personally, I would absolutely agree with that last statement. It is kicking the can down the road. They openly want to ethnically cleanse Gaza, which they've pretty much done already, and they want to seem as if they're not the bad guys at all. A man-made hunger can only be addressed by a political will. Lift the siege, open the gates, and guarantee safe movements. Exactly. What is an airdrop and why are they dangerous? There are several ways humanitarian agencies and international allies can deliver aid to regions in need, but by land, by sea, or by air. While parachuting supply packages from planes may look impressive, airdrops are fraught with problems, Sky correspondent in Jordan Sally Lockwood says, and often used as a desperate last resort. Exactly. And it is a desperate last resort, as Israel have created, US-backed and UK-backed. Israel have created this desperate last resort and now doing this as a kind of, oh, we tried to help. And they know that people aren't going to believe that they really tried to help, but they need to have something to argue back with, some ammunition in the tank. They don't care whether you really believe it or not. They just need something to argue their point with. Oh, we sent airdrops in after you killed them all, starved them all. Yeah, but we sent airdrops in. They need to be seen to be doing something to hook their argument on. That creates a barrier for them to hide behind, even though it's a fake barrier and everybody knows it's nonsense. It doesn't matter because they're not looking for you to agree with them. They're looking for you to stop the argument with them or hold it up. That's the point. So none of this really matters. It's quite evident that October the 7th was allowed to happen. You can't parachute in and drive a tractor through the Iron Gate unless you're allowed to, obviously. I mean, the Hannibal directive at the music festival, there's no way Hamas had access to that weaponry. But they need something to argue the point with. That is the frustration you have with a sociopath and a psychopath. They'll find something very minute that argues their point, which is flimsy and kind of irrelevant, but it's something to hook themselves to whilst they kick the can down the road and hide behind what they're actually doing, which everybody knows they're actually doing, but you're never going to get these lunatics to admit, or a criminal or a psychopath to admit, that they were in the wrong. They'll always give you an excuse, a reason why they did something, a lifeline for themselves. And this is a lifeline for these guys, the IDF, not a lifeline clearly for those they are murdering. the Palestinians. Palestinian sources tell us that the aid that's been dropped so far is not reaching the most vulnerable. They are an attempt to get something to a few, often viewed as a desperate last resort. Gaza is at that point. So it's basically something for the cameras, something to tell you in the West that, oh, we're trying to help them whilst you kill them. And it's this kind of cognitive argument back and forth. And it's a play that they often use. They can argue something. They can go back to the Holocaust and talk about that if you ever go at anyone who's to do with the Israeli government and use the term Semitic when it doesn't even mean that. It's largely Arabic languages spoken by the Palestinians. When these things fail, which they are doing, they just need something to hook their boat to, as I say, a lifeline for their argument. And this is all this is. When it comes down to the fact is that there is this agenda for a new world order, Olam Haba, new Solomon's Temple, and all of this stuff that we talk about here on this show, and the other shows on iconic.com that many others won't even go near. And this is all just the drama playing out on top of that. And it's backed by the UK and backed by the US. Many people don't have a clue or never heard of British Israelism. Go and have a look at it. The royals, German royals, believe that they are descendants from the tribe of, I believe it's Joseph, who's one of the descendants of the 12 lost tribes and all of that mythological nonsense. This is how it all ties in. And I know I'll go off on tangents about this, but when you understand the whole collective background of it, it makes total sense of what they're doing. So they're just kicking the can down the road there. And one of the people that's absolutely responsible for what's going on now, and as you will know, as the world knows, is Donald Trump. $4 billion in March, him and Mark Rubio sent to the IDF to help continue this slaughter in the Middle East because they are part of this Messianic sect that join in with the likes of the Jesuits, the likes of the Freemasons, the top level Freemasons, this Kabbalistic madness and inversion of what it was once supposed to be, which is just alchemical principles of how to live your own life and how the nature of reality allegedly works. None of us really know. But what most people didn't know, and I actually only researched this yesterday myself, so I've never heard anyone talking about this, so maybe this is a first for us guys, that Donald Trump says in this clip here, he's never been to Epstein Island, but he's never had the privilege of going to Epstein Island. Have a look at this clip now.
I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
Imagine saying, I never had the privilege of going to the island. People say, oh, is this a bad phrasing, slip of the tongue? Well, he's the president of the United States. Never had the privilege of going to a paedophile's island. That's a bit of a faux pas. I bet his press secretary is going, Donald, bloody hell. But what most people don't realise is that he probably didn't need to go to the island because he had his own chateau not too far away from Little St. James Island. So it's called the Trump Le Chateau de Palmares, and it's on an island nearby. So let's have a look at this. So this is in St. Martin. So you have these islands around the Caribbean. You have Little St. James, you have St. Martin, and you have St. Thomas. They all have submarine ports and boat ports and yacht ports. They're not going on commercial yacht cruises to each other, although that can happen. It's not that far away in terms of a private jet or a yacht. I mean, it might be a couple of hours away, but it's not that far away. So why would he need to go to the island if he's got his own Caribbean chateau there? So the Chateau des Palmares, St. Martin, bought in 2013 by Donald J. Trump and located in the Terrace Basin in French St. Martin. Chateau des Palmes is a breathtaking beachfront estate in an exclusive gated enclave. Of course, it's gated. Wonder where these tunnels lead to underneath. With a 6-bedroom oceanside villa and a 4-bedroom gardenside villa, so 2 different villas. The chateau is perched on the beach of Plum Bay, known for its white sand and perfectly rolling waves. They're always on a beach. When you go to St. Bart's is another one that we've covered extensively. So St. Martin's, St. Bart's, Little St. James, and this one, and St. Thomas. They all have their properties right on the beach. And you would say, of course they will, it's a Caribbean island. And that's a fair point. But if you go to St. Bart's, which is where Epstein hung around with his mates, and you have people like Dr. Phil visiting there, and you also have P. Diddy doing a lot of his wrong work there, and a guy from Abercrombie and Fitch, one of the CEOs or founders of that, was done for, is allegedly under investigation for trafficking young male models. A lot goes on these islands, and we know they have submarine connections. Richard Branson's island isn't too far away. Submarines again. We know that they have submarine ports, and this is something we keep pointing out. So why has Donald Trump got a villa, a chateau not that far away? Why would he need to go to the island if there's other drop-off points? And I'm not saying that he is involved with the child abuse there, not at all, and there's no evidence of that. But there's something deeper going on here on a transhumanist level point, which I believe he knows full well about, which goes into this messianic agenda. And part of their messianic prophecy is that they will live forever. They will be transhumans who will live in their Olam Haba world to come forever as demigods. The technology for that, I believe, is going on and using subjects like lost children underneath these islands, and possibly under the grounds of New Mexico as well, where Zorro Ranch is. So there are facilities here, and if you were investigating this properly, you would go to these facilities and try and find out. So I got a bit off point there, but St. Bart's, right on the edge of that island, is an old, I believe it's a Rockefeller mansion. Again, right on the edge, there's ample opportunity to have some sort of port there, submarine port there, yacht station there, private jets flying in and out. This island of St. Martin's apparently has got 2 because it's separated in the middle between continents in terms of who owns it. And there's a main one I think in the south, and there's another one in the north, or maybe the other way around. And there's 2 airports there as well. There's a private one, and there's a more commercial one. So there's 2 airports in and out there. So airplane, private jet, yacht, submarine. There's something going on in these islands, and it has to do with trafficking young people, vulnerable people who are a bit starry-eyed and want to be involved in the music industry or the modeling industry, and using them, possibly the eggs, sperm, the ovaries, for something else. And this is the conclusion that I've come to, and a few others are finally starting to listen to. It's worth investigating. There's enough evidence there to say there's something to this. And Donald Trump has his own chateau there as well. So it's well worth looking into. Not anyone else I've heard of is talking about that place as well. People will say, well, he just lives nearby, and they all do. Yes, could be perfectly innocent. Could be perfectly innocent. But we know that Trump had a strong relationship with Epstein. We know that their relationship goes back a long, long way. We know that they're seen at parties together. Epstein was even invited, I believe, to one of Trump's weddings. I think it was to the lady who went on to be a Kabbalist herself. So these things are real, and they're worth looking into. They're all connected. Back over here to the UK. Now, this was a very, very odd one, because I looked in the background of this guy, and this, I don't know if this is true, but this has the kind of feeling of a PR marketing campaign when you find out who this guy is connected to and who he was funded by. Inventor Julian Brown feared missing after discovering how to turn plastic into gasoline. Now his mum tells Daily Mail the real story. An inventor who vanished after saying he was under attack over a groundbreaking technology is fine, but keeping a low profile for his safety, according to his mother. As if the CIA and FBI and all this technology now couldn't track him. But his mum knows where he is. I mean, it's nonsense. Of course it's nonsense. Julian Brown, 21, is a kid. Gained online notoriety thanks to his work in the energy field, particularly plastoline, a product he claims recycles plastic by turning it into gasoline. The inventor, who lives in the Atlanta area and has 1.7 million followers on Instagram — you do not get 1.7 million followers on Instagram unless you're allowed to get, or supposed to get 1.7 million followers on Instagram — has not been heard from since July the 9th, when he posted a disturbing video claiming he was under attack. Now, to me, this seems like a very well thought out PR marketing campaign for this, dragging in some conspiracy theorists. It's one of those ones when you first look and go, wow, obviously they don't want him to because they have big oil and big pharma and all these guys behind it. But when you really look into it, it's like, how did he get that money and how did he get so famous so quick in terms of online social media presence? And then also, how is his mum the only person knows where he is when we're full of technology everywhere and satellites everywhere? It's just nonsense, quite frankly, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Call me an old-fashioned, grumpy old skeptic, but I think it's quite good to be a skeptic conspiracy theorist sometimes. Something is happening. Keep me in your prayers, please. Screen record this. I don't know. Brown wrote on the post. Again, drama. Controversy creates gash. I'm certainly under attack. I can't go into so much detail, but you can post it on social media. Brown said to the camera as he told his followers to keep your eyes open. However, Brown's mother, Naya, told DailyMail.com on Monday that Brown is not missing. I can confirm Julian is safe, but in the best interest of his security, I'm not able to provide any more information. There's people out there that can track you all over the probably bloody galaxy. They know full well where this guy is. When asked for further details, Naya Brown insisted she could not provide more information about her son. And here he is selling a product. I think this is all a marketing campaign. I could be completely wrong, and I'll just look like a horrible arsehole if I am. But the reason why I think that this is all a marketing campaign is because when you look into the funding, his funding comes from Y Combinator, which is a very well-known seed funding system that I believe people like Sam Altman are involved with. And that goes back to Sequoia Capital, who funded Y Combinator. These are all connected in with intelligence. So how would they not know where he is? It's absurd. So my personal belief is that that's a marketing campaign, but it'll be interesting to see how this one follows out. But I think we should be aware that, come on, you can't have it both ways. You can't live in a smart city surveilled state. And I believe that what they've done in the movies is put forward this kind of distant future. Look at this dystopian future you're going to live in if this carries on that way. And eventually there'll be something similar. But it puts it off in the future. All this technology, it looks like a different world when you realize at one point that actually we're already living in it. Yes, it will become more extreme. But when you're looking for something, the best place to hide it is in plain sight. Everything around us already could be traced since the implementation of the internet. And that's the point. That's the hive mind. So I think we should be aware that we're already living in something they're selling further down the line, which looks completely different in the movies, but it's pretty much already here. They just need you to kind of accept it. And what they'll do is they'll give you an extreme version in the movies that may happen somewhere down the line. But actually, at the same time, you're getting the real live version without knowing it because you're looking for something else. You're looking for this movie version of it. And I think that's what's happening with things like Neuralink and this brain technology. This stuff is already maybe in us. Not us, because most of us didn't take it, the mRNA vaccines, when people are looking to put a brain chip in your head. It's classic red herring look over there. I'm not saying this is true, but I think we should have these thought processes, at least while we can. Well, they delete him out of my head. So Y Combinator fund this guy, and they're funded by Sequoia Capital, and they're all connected in with the intelligence agency. So as if they didn't know what this young guy was up to. I don't believe this one for a second, but I could be completely wrong. So moving on to our last story of the day. He's back. Guess who's back? Back again, the Orange Man with his mate. Donald Trump's with Keir Starmer. Starmer to discuss Gaza peace plan at emergency cabinet. So you're discussing the peace plan with the guy that gave $4 billion to create the problem that you're discussing the peace plan with. $4 billion. How about you just say, Starmer, Donald, stop giving them money, because without it, they can't kill these children and these families and decimate that bit of land. These guys know full well why it's being done. Trump especially. Keir Starmer is Trilateral Commission, which is the round table. It all fits in. The round table is very much involved with the guys that started the US in terms of going back to the Freemasons that created them. They're all Kabbalists. So Keir Starmer will hold an emergency UK cabinet meeting on Tuesday to discuss a peace plan and aid efforts for Gaza after warnings of mass starvation in the territory. It's too late, but they're going to try and seem like the good guys at the end. These guys funded it. The Prime Minister presented a European-led peace plan for Gaza to Donald Trump during a meeting in Scotland with the US President on Monday. It follows a call with leaders of France and Germany over the weekend after the US-led peace talks broke down last week. Yes, because you were funding it. Stop it. Because you don't want to stop it, because you're connected in with this ideology that has a plan for the Middle East, the Greater Israel Project, King Ramses II's kingdom, your temple, your broadcasting system, your smart grid, your transhumans, your year 5,785 that you think we're in. It gives us about 220 years, 215 years before you lunatics have got to get the job done, or you believe that your God, Yahweh, will come back and destroy you too because you're lunatics. It's a death cult. These guys are involved with the death cult, especially Trump, openly. So he's involved. He's Jesuit educated, dropped out. You don't need a degree. You're only there for brainwashing. So is Hillary Clinton, by the way, and Fauci. In with Chabad, Messianic, Lurianic Kabbalists. So is Netanyahu. So is Putin. These guys are all in it together. They have to sell you this fake. We're trying to do something about it. Although you've even created it. Downing Street has not given details of the peace plan, because there isn't one, promising the next steps will be set out after the cabinet meeting, which is being held at 2:00 yesterday. The House of Commons broke for the summer recess last week. They've got to have a holiday, don't they? Got to have a holiday. Stressful, isn't it? Shouting in a room, other posh people. But Sir Keir had decided to recall his cabinet ministers to Westminster to discuss how to help alleviate the humanitarian situation in Gaza and push for a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. Hamas was originally set up, propped up, like we've been saying for years, allowed into on October the 7th into Israel, but they were initially propped up by Netanyahu as a reason to take down the PLO. They are controlling both sides, as they always do. The best way to get aid and be humanitarian to those in Gaza, Donald, I know you watch the show, and Keir, you definitely do watch the show, is to stop funding it. Yeah. $4 billion goes a long way when trying to kill Palestinians, doesn't it, Donald? Yep. And some parts for the jets that are flying over and bombing them, Starmer, and all the rest that we don't know about openly. There's a plan here, and they're not going to stop until it's ethnically cleansed, which is pretty much done now. I mean, Trump's even talked about Trump Plaza and all of these places, and he's even got Trump Heights and the Golan Heights named after him. I mean, Netanyahu did he give him a gold pager? Something along those lines. They're kicking the can down the road with this nonsense. The plans build on the collaboration to date between the three countries and would also set out a pathway to peace and sustainable to a two-state solution, spokesman said. However, Trump suggested that getting aid into Gaza was his focus before discussing future peace plans. Before we get to phase 2, which is what's going to happen afterwards, that's how it happens, Donald. Phase 1 first and phase 2 second. Genius. We want to get the children fed. Stop bombing them then, Donald. I could read more, but the guy's an absolute cretin. And it winds us all up. He should be in The Hague. So should Netanyahu. And Putin's one of them too. Until people start to take this and understand the fact that what's behind this and why they're doing it is far darker, and it does connect in with transhumanism, it does connect in with the New World Order, it does connect in with the Jesuits and the Knights Templar and the top level Freemasons, and all of these lunatics, the CIA, all of the intelligence agencies at their apex are connected in with each other. Victor Rothschild was the fifth man of the Cambridge Five. He wasn't part of the KGB, he was running them all. And his family founded modern-day Israel. It's not hard to work out. And they, the Rothschilds, bailed out Donald Trump via Wilbur Ross in the late 1980s, early 90s, because he was skint, because he spent that $1 million that his daddy gave him. And his daddy were involved with his Chabad lot too. So was RFK Jr., so was RFK Jr.'s father, Robert Sr. Come on. If I can put it together, you guys definitely can. And in a far better way. Head over to shop.iconic.com and use the code trending for 10% off your coffee. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye.